sanctuary.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Everyone is Addicted. Today we have Coach Michael Herbert, who is going to discuss his knowledge and his experience with addiction. And his story is quite unique. So I'm really excited to get to talk to him and pick his brain a little bit. So, welcome, Michael. And yeah, please tell us
Mhm.
about yourself.
Sure. In the introduction, you talked about my experience with addiction, and my experience with addiction is really limited to finding ways and means to get more. My experience in recovery is much deeper and more encompassing than my experience with addiction, because addiction for me was just, you know, how do I get more? How do I manage the effects of using? And then this constant preoccupation with using when I wasn't using. So
Mm-hmm.
there were three things going on with addiction, but there are thousands of things going on in recovery. Um, I, oftentimes you hear people say, I've always been an addict. In some breath, I say, I've always been an addict. And in another breath, it's something that happened later to me in life, meaning when I got older. So I don't know if I was born with it,
Mm-hmm.
or if I got it somehow. But you know what? That's all kind of luxury information. One day I may find out or I may not. It doesn't matter because what happened happened, and it's time for me to move on from there.
I
And
totally agree. It's
yeah.
more about the solution than the problem that was the past, you know?
Right. And when you talk about the solution, that's difficult because your solution may not be my solution, may not be somebody else's solution. So I don't know what the solution is for anybody else. I know what the solution is for me. I came into recovery in 1989, so it's been 36 years. But when I first came into recovery, you were prescribed basic stuff. You got to believe it's a disease. You got to go to AA,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to do 90 meetings in 90 days and get a sponsor and do the steps.
That's exactly what it was for me, and it didn't fit. And like I said earlier, one size does not fit all. So
One size
that,
does not fit all. But you know what? They didn't seem to have any other solutions back then. I
no,
guess I could have gone to a methadone program, but it wouldn't have made sense for me because I didn't do opiates.
exactly.
I was smoking
It,
crack.
and
And yeah.
it's still the same kind of thing, right? Like
Mhm.
basically you go in, you talk about how you're doing, blah blah blah, and then they still say the same thing. Okay, go to meetings, go get counseling, go to detox, but they don't really provide anything that is resourceful in trying to find a way to better your life, trying to find a way to get better, you
But
know?
I got to tell you, they don't. And I don't really blame them because they don't know any better.
Hmm.
When I got into recovery, my counselor was overweight, smoked a pack a day, and gave me the great advice of, one thing at a time. Really? Cigarettes kill more people than any other drug, and you're not telling me to stop smoking? I need to stop smoking. I didn't stop immediately. I stopped 2 years after I got into recovery, but it's some of those kinds of things. I went to a 30-day program, and then they felt like I needed more, so they sent me to a therapeutic community. So it was a long-term program. So I got the best or the worst of both worlds. I got the disease concept from the 30-day program and the 12-step model, and then I got the anti-disease concept and let's stick together as a tribe from a therapeutic community which I really struggled with. I did not do well with that harsh kind of concept. I liked the 30-day program. Um, I didn't really know what it would entail once I got out. But when I did get out and they put me in the therapeutic community didn't believe in the 12-step program. But I had a piece of paper from the 30-day program that said, our continuing care plan for Michael is to come to your program and to go to 12-step meetings.
That's
So
ironic.
I told them that you got to let me go to these meetings
Hmm.
and they said, sure, you can go, but we're not going to take you. You got to walk. And these meetings were 5 miles away.
Oh man.
So I would walk to the meetings and I would get a ride back. I really liked the meetings. I liked to sit and listen to the stories. I liked to drink the coffee. They had cookies. They would let you speak. They would give out key tags, but there was no way I was getting a sponsor. I wasn't going to have somebody tell me what to do
Mhm.
because that's what I viewed it. And I wasn't going to do the 12 steps. Why am I going to do all this extra work? Listen, I would say to myself, it's bad enough I'm going to the meetings. But I went to the meetings and I enjoyed the meetings and I got something out of it. But what happened was after about 18 months or 2 years of going to the meetings the way that I did, I wasn't getting much out of it. So at that point, I became open to the sponsor and the steps. And at about 2 years, I got a notice from the 30-day program that I went to that, hey, we're having an internship program. If you would like to join our internship program and get 500 hours of education, 2,000 hours of work experience, then you can sit for the exam to become a certified addiction counselor in the state of New York. Um,
Wow.
so when so when I got 2 years, I applied for that program. I went to upstate New York at a place called Conifer Park, and I did their internship program. I completed that, um, and then stood for the test in New York, got certified. In the meantime, I got a job at a therapeutic community. My first job was at a therapeutic community. Um, After I just came from one, now that I didn't like, now I'm working in one.
Hmm.
And the culture was really different. Because I had the background of the disease concept and the 12 steps that was learned from the internship, the therapeutic community's concept was much different. They hadn't come around to 12-step programs at that time. Their thing was, we're going to do this together within our community. We're going to help each other and we're going to stay together and we're going to just kind of do it that way.
Like a
Um,
support group, we lean on each other, kind of like holistic,
but it was
kind of.
like a tribe that
Yeah.
it's just us and we're going to do this together. Um, so I was an outsider within that community. So the clients that I worked with, they kind of liked me because I was different than their other therapists, because all of their other therapists used to be patients there.
Yeah, you know how many people I know who actually have gone to the rehab, gotten the certification, and come back and worked at the same rehab. So
Yeah,
that's actually very common. So they
yeah,
probably
it is.
just love
Mhm,
the new perspective.
mhm. Well, yeah, they did. I think they liked the new perspective. It was challenging though to work with the staff, because they saw me. I don't know if they saw me as a threat or maybe they didn't think I knew what I was doing.
Or you're
Because I was doing
different.
things differently. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
you're
I
just
was
different,
different.
so they didn't like that. And I know how that is
Mhm.
in any kind of job, right? If you do things
Yeah.
differently,
Hmm.
people don't understand why. And
Hmm.
like I worked in the restaurants before, right? And so like I have a certain way of doing things, and
Hmm.
the other servers would get frustrated with me because I'm like a very pragmatic and I like everything to be really clean, really
Hmm.
detailed, and it would make them so angry with me because they just
Hmm.
wanted to stand around and chat, and I just wanted to stand
Yeah.
around. I wanted to clean, and then
Yeah.
it was the whole thing. So I mean, it's a totally different
Yeah.
job experience,
Hmm.
but I can see that
Hmm.
I know the difference of being different in a situation, and it maybe it is a threat in a way because they're like maybe people are going to like him over us and his
Hmm.
ideas. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
That could be a lot of the reason.
Yeah. So I stayed there for a year. It was a place that was called Samaritan Village. It was in New York. And I stayed there for a year. And then there was an opportunity at an outpatient program called Intercare in New York City. And I applied for that job and I got that job. And that's where I really learned my skills. I worked with this guy named Vincent Casolaro and another guy, Bob Smith, that really gave me the reins of the place. They owned it, but they say, Michael, start our outpatient program. I don't know if they knew that I didn't know what I was doing. And I just,
They believed in you,
they believed in me before I could believe in myself.
which is
But,
beautiful.
but I did things that just seemed to make sense for me.
Hmm.
Lucky enough, I started out with one client, um, and he was an attorney that got disbarred. And for the first 6 weeks, I sat with this guy 3 days a week for 3 hours for the outpatient program and 1 hour for individual. So I'm with one guy for 6 weeks for 10 hours a week.
That's tough.
And I mean, that was just insane. And then we started getting more people in, and the group grew. And eventually, I think we grew to about 30 groups. And I stayed there for about 7 years. And I left and I went to Houston for a while. Then I came to Florida and I worked at a treatment program, Karen Foundation, for about 14 years. At the end of my tenure there, they started a new program called the Ocean Drive program, and they put me in charge of it. So I kind of formed that, created that, stayed with them for a couple of years, and then left and did a private practice. So that's where I come in as Coach Michael Herbert.
Hmm.
But in that process for me, recovery, the ideas of recovery, the way that I saw it were kind of boring. Oh, you go to therapy, you go to these meetings, you talk to these people that you go to the meetings with, you go to a diner with them, you go to their dances, you go to bowling with them, you go to their conventions, and it's like there's got to be more to recovery
Hmm.
than this.
That's
And
exactly my thinking. So thank you for
and it,
saying that.
it was hard to find out because there were so many people that were into that.
Hmm.
Um,
It's
there was
because it's
one day I
what
was,
they were into because that's basically all we were really kind of told, right? So
yeah,
that that's
mhm,
where you just your brain goes right away, like you know what I mean?
mhm,
Like right away you go to a like when you feel like you have a problem, you
mhm,
go to AA or NA right away. That's just what
mhm,
you think's going to be the best fit. And a lot of people, like you said, can find it boring, can just find it not the right fit for them for so many other reasons,
mhm.
and I love like how you said that there just needs to be something a little there needs to be more, right? And that
Well, there needs to be more, but I also have to, if I'm going to take my inventory,
Mhm.
I have to be a little more creative in my thinking. I was reading a magazine, a GQ magazine, one day at work, and there were this article about this thing called the Boulder Outdoor Survival School. And it was about living in the desert as primitive man. I was reading the article and I was telling my boss, the guy that hired me, Bob Smith, about it. And I said, boy, look at this neat thing. These people are out in the Utah desert. They're, finding food, water, and shelter. And boy, that would be a fun thing to do. And he says to me, well, why don't you do it?
yeah, I would
And I
I
was
would
kind of
agree.
I was kind of jarred when he said that because I'm the guy who just daydreams and imagines doing things,
Hmm.
but never did it. So I called up the number, I wrote out the check, and I did my first adventure in the desert of Utah, and I did a primitive living course. And
I
of
would love
course,
to do that.
and of
Love.
and of course, my personality the next year, I did another one in the mountains of Mexico with the Tarahumara Indians.
That would
And
be
so
cool. I
so I
like
lived.
I love
Mhm,
their ideals and the way they think. So like
mhm.
that which one did you like better?
Well, they were really different. One was food, water, and shelter, and then the Terra Meheran was more of a cultural. So these are the real Indians in the mountains of Mexico.
Mhm.
These are the ones who run marathons barefoot.
Yeah,
And so you learned how they cooked, how they ate. We slept in caves, so it was a really culturally immersive experience where when we did Utah, we were just our group and we were just going from food, water, and shelter. We went from one campground to another. We
yeah.
caught our own food, we ate, and that was the whole thing. But along with that, I said, you know what? I still need to do more. So in the 90s, I started going to Cuba. So I went to Cuba 4 times. It was illegal to go, but I
Oh yeah,
figured I
because
could
you're
get,
American. I
yeah,
forgot 'cause
I
I'm
could I
Canadian.
could get there from Bahamas and Jamaica. So I went twice from Jamaica and twice from Bahamas. So these were the things that enhanced my recovery, that I got to do stuff that I couldn't do in my active addiction because addiction wouldn't allow me to do anything other than use. And I didn't want to be restricted in my recovery to only do, I don't know, 12-step stuff.
Hmm.
That just wasn't enough for me.
Well, you know
It,
what? I actually, when I was in the Tulsa program, when they have speaker meetings, there was
mhm,
a guy there that was had done some of those adventure things, but he did it in the Amazon, and he
mhm,
went down the went into the Amazon down the river and
mhm,
spent a whole bunch of time doing that, and that's where
mhm,
I first got the bug to want to try to do those things. Obviously I can't at the moment, but that's why I'm like picking your brain, because like he was the one who put the idea in my head at first, and then I had mentor who was a Native American who had was teaching me a lot about their ways of life and stuff like that, and he
mhm,
sadly passed away, and that's kind
mhm,
of when I left AA, because
mhm,
he was somebody who taught me so much about different ways of thinking, right? And
mhm,
that's why I think that the adventure part is actually really important, because it
mhm,
opens your mind to different ways of living, different cultures, and instead of being just in like your everyday life and your everyday routine, it can be easy to get bored or go back to using because you're bored. You know what I
mhm.
mean? And
Yeah.
instead of putting
Mhm.
in place something that fulfills that need instead, you know?
Well, and also what I realized was using would get in the way of me doing these things. I could not use and go to Cuba. I can't use and live in the desert. I just can't, because using was all consuming. So I realized that if I want to be able to keep this kind of lifestyle and then move on to other things, I have to stay clean. So in that these 36 years, I've been on 4 safaris, in
What a
Tanzania,
smart steal. Just want to steal
South
your
Af-
life.
South Africa, and Kenya. I ran 155 miles through the Sahara Desert, so I did an ultra marathon. I climbed Mount Meru. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I did Machu Picchu, Table Mountain. I did some in Indonesia. Um, I've done a lot of travel and adventure. These are the things that I wanted to do. And initially, what I would do is I'd save a paycheck and bring a paycheck. And that was enough to do it. Um, I developed a sense of faith and trust that things would be okay. So, Michael, don't get too worried about not being able to do something. If you want to do something, just do it. I also learned, don't talk to a whole lot of people about it because they'll talk you out of it. They'll tell you how impractical it is. This isn't, it isn't going to work. You should save your money. You should do this. You should do that. I can't live that way.
Neither can
And
I.
I also realize that people like that will hold me back from a lot of things. So I need to limit myself with those people or utilize those people for their areas of expertise or strength, but I don't need to bring them into another area of my life which they know nothing about and they're not interested in anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, it's not their way. It's your path, like what you said
Mhm,
at the beginning, right? So it bringing them into it's just maybe not their path. So
mhm.
they're going to see things differently than you are, you know?
Yeah. And recovery does have its ups and downs. I remember there was a period of time, you hear all these people talk about ayahuasca and things like that. I said, oh, that's interesting. Um, I knew that I can't do ayahuasca without it being considered a relapse, but I wanted to look into it anyway. So I looked into it and I talked to one of these places and they told me all about it. And the guy told me he was in recovery and he tried it before and he's fine. I said, well, how many times have you done it? He said, four. I said, well, if I ever did it, I would just want to do one and done. Why did you have to do it four
Yeah.
times? Well, I said, you know what? That alone tells me this
That
ain't for me.
that just taught me too because
Mhm,
the way that they explain it to you is that basically you only need to do it once, like, and they usually use psilocybin and the
mhm,
ayahuasca kind of
mhm,
ceremonies in like connection with each other at these retreats and stuff.
mhm.
And if you're using it four times, that's a sign that it's something that you're like needing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're
And
needing and
yeah,
depending on. Now,
mhm.
but here's one thing that I did find. You want to get a natural high? I started fasting
I've heard that. Yeah.
and I did a 100-hour fast and it was the most powerful experience of my life. And I didn't have to put some drug in my system.
Mm-hmm.
I actually didn't add anything to my system but water. And it cleaned out my system. It gave me just a joyful feeling. It also gave me the knowledge that I could do this ongoing to enhance my life, enhance my recovery, enhance my health. So
Because
I'm,
I
I'm not
know
going to get
that
into to
I know
all of
people
them.
fast for
Yeah.
health reasons and religious
Mhm,
reasons, but um I didn't really think about using it as a recovery tool, but I mean, honestly, it cleaning out your system, first of all, is probably very good for your mind, like clear, like
mhm,
being able to think clearly, I would assume. I I fast just because I have so much I do all the time that I end
mhm,
up just doing it by like because I'm so busy that I don't stop to
mhm,
necessarily eat. I just eat one meal a day kind of
mhm,
thing. And it definitely people think I'm so weird and oh I should be hungry and I should be irritable and stuff like that. And I'm not, you know? So I see where the benefits come from in that way because I find I
mhm,
think more clearly, I'm more focused on tasks and things
mhm.
like that. It really does clear my system out all the time, you know, and it's
Well, when people say you should, they're probably right when they say you should be hungry, because the reason why you're hungry, it's more of a habit. You're not even really hungry. You just have the habit of eating 3 meals a day or 3 meals and three snacks a day. But you only really need one meal a day. So what's the best meal for you per day? It's the one you eat. It
mm-hmm,
doesn't matter if it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and you probably only need one. Um, and that to me is a recovery tool, just like travel, just like exercise, just like adventure, just like yoga, journaling, meditation, meetings, sponsorship, fellowship. These are all recovery tools. And my recovery program, and this is what I tell people, it needs to be broader than just going to therapy or a 12-step meeting.
That's exactly how I feel, and
And
that's
and
why I
so
do this.
so when you say, Michael, but I can't travel the way you travel, and this, that, and the other, I have small kids. Well, then I would say to a parent, well, you know what? Then take your kid to the pool and swimming and commit to teaching your child how to swim. If you can't join a gym, then take a long walk. There are so many. And if you're not into travel and adventure, maybe you're into art, maybe you're into music, maybe you're into studying, maybe you're into construction, maybe you're into gardening. I'm also a beekeeper.
Oh,
So I
wow.
have five
That's good
beehives in
on
my
you.
backyard. And you know what? There's a therapeutic value to raising bees because of the vibration.
The
So they're
frequencies of their buzzing
Yeah,
helps with your
they're
brain.
often used with people with PTSD. So there's
hmm
a lot of life out there once you put down the substance.
And
But
once
the
you,
key,
you
the
get,
key to this is you got to put down the substance. It's not going to work with you intermittently using.
no,
You've got to put it down all the way down. But there is no one size fits all. But what I will
yeah.
say is you have to try many things to find the thing that works for you or
And
things that work
that's
for you.
exactly why I started this podcast because I think the exact same way. So I like to talk to people and get different perspectives on ways that tools that they used in recovery, ways that they found recovery, because maybe somebody will hear that's like, I hate meetings, and because that's what the doctor
Mm,
told them they have to do. Then they hear you talking about adventures, and they're
mm,
like, that would be a perfect thing for me to be
mm.
able to, you know, get away from it, and be able to commit to something bigger than myself.
And you know what? If I stopped doing everything that I've hated, I would do nothing because everything that I've been involved with in life, at some point, I don't feel like doing this. I don't like this anymore. And if I quit everything, I would have nothing. So I've gone to meetings that are just like, you got to be kidding.
hmm
What am I doing here? But I'll go back. I'll say to myself, well, what did I offer the meeting? Am I just taking their inventory and, judging people? Did I offer anything? Maybe it was a bad day for me. Maybe
hmm
it wasn't the right meeting for me. That doesn't mean for me to stop going. Now, when I was in early recovery, I went to 5 to 7 a week.
yeah.
But later I go to 2 a week now. I do one online and one face to face.
Yeah, I do one.
Sometimes,
I do one a week.
sometimes,
It's not
sometimes I do one a week. Also, when I go out of town or out of the country, I always try to find a meeting to go to
that.
because you know why? Because the locals will always show you cheap places to go.
But that's
You
what
know,
my mother-in-law does. But she always finds me, like, she travels a lot too, and
yeah.
she always finds meetings. And she also is somebody who likes a good deal and likes interesting like cultural things. So
Mhm.
she definitely does the same thing.
Yeah. I went to Turkey years back and I stumbled across the third annual NA convention.
Oh
And it
wow.
was in a park and there was about 10 people there. And it was just weird how I just kind of stumbled into it. I saw these people in a park and there was just something about them that looked familiar,
hmm
in the way that they were standing around or being around each other. And it was that whole recovery kind of look. And
hmm
it was a convention. So that was pretty exciting for me. But I've been
That's
to
cool.
meetings in Jamaica, Turkey, Egypt, Thailand, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania. I've just gone all over.
And some of those
Yeah.
countries you would not think would have meetings due to their cultural values. Do you know what I mean?
Eth-
Like, you
Ethiopia
would
has
think
one meeting in the whole country. So there are millions and millions. They have one meeting. And they're lucky
that's
to
what I
get
mean,
three,
right?
and they're lucky to get three people at the meeting, you
Well,
know.
that's like when you said Egypt, I thought right away, like, I would think that they would shy away from certain things.
Oh
Like,
no, no, I got to tell you, Egypt, Iran, India, those meetings are thriving.
weirdest thing is most of my highest countries viewers are actually those countries. So
Hmm.
maybe I should open my mind a little bit more since hearing, like, after hearing you say that,
Yeah.
and thinking about how I when I look at my analytics and I see that those are the
Mm.
countries that watch my like my podcast the most. it
Uh-huh.
it maybe there is more addiction and like then I was maybe being culturally judgmental, I guess you could say, and not realizing that it actually is thriving there, like you said. So that's eye-opening for me,
Mm.
and kind of how, like, I guess I realized I was being judgmental culturally in a
Hmm.
way that, and I didn't mean to be, but I was,
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The meetings are all over. Africa, it does struggle, but Egypt, is a part of Africa. Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, all have thriving, 12-step communities, recovery communities. When I was in Egypt, though, one of the problems for me, was all the meetings were in Arabic.
Yeah.
And so they would ask me I would speak in English and there would be an interpreter, but I never really understood what people were saying to me. So you know what I did? I started an English speaking NA meeting. It's still going on there. I think it's on Tuesdays or Wednesdays now. They switched the night. And so it's still going on, because I didn't want to go to the Elder Fellowship there. And they had the Elder Fellowship there, but it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I
Mhm.
liked my 12-step fellowship.
Yeah.
So why not start a meeting? And me and a few others started an English speaking meeting, and it's going still today. So it's
Well,
great.
lots
Yeah.
lots of people I know that travel look for meetings when they go away, and that having an English speaking meeting available would be very like helpful for that reason, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I like like I said, my mother-in-law travels a lot and goes to meetings, but she generally goes to the UK. So
Hmm.
they speak English there
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
most of the countries. So she's never had to struggle with that. But if she did go to Egypt
Hmm.
or somewhere like that, I know that she would struggle with understanding them and maybe
Hmm.
feel like because she does celebrate recovery, so
Hmm.
that isn't always a fit in certain countries because of her religious views.
Well,
It's
yeah, it's Christian. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
she
Hmm.
would probably, but she would still go to an English speaking
Hmm.
meeting just
Yeah.
for the meeting,
Yeah.
and just
Hmm.
also to meet the people and take in new people and meet new people from all over the world, which I like doing as well because they
Hmm.
all have so much to offer that you
Hmm.
wouldn't think because they're not their country is different than ours, and they still struggle in the same way that you can connect with somebody from the other side of the world, like per se Australia. I have
Hmm.
had a few guests, and
Hmm.
they've become like really, really good friends, and yet they're
Hmm.
like so far away from me, and it's that
Hmm.
connection and community that meetings can bring, or just having a conversation because you've had struggles and stuff
Hmm.
like that. You understand each other, and it's
Yeah.
like a bond that you have with everyone that has struggled in their past. You
Yeah.
don't even have to
Hmm.
talk about it. You just have that bond already, and you
Yeah. The struggle is the same. There's not that much difference, and we all wind up feeling alone.
Mhm.
When we hit that bottom, it's about loneliness, and you know, I believe recovery starts with hopelessness. That you got to feel hopeless before you can feel hope.
Yeah.
And so we have to work from our hopelessness to get into recovery. And then we have to grasp onto that hope and know that it's going to get better no matter what goes on.
Oh,
That whole saying, "This too shall pass." So when things are going bad, really is understanding that it's going to pass and it's going to get better.
well,
And we have to grab onto moments of sanity, because when we're moving into the crisis or moving into using, there's going to be an opportunity, a moment of sanity that says, I don't think you should go this direction, go the other way. Your job is to grab onto that moment of sanity and go the other way, because you may never come back.
well, I've been through just recently a
Mhm,
very, very stressful situation. I won't get into it because it's just a whole long story, but I have had that clarity of, if I was to pick up and use again, it would just make the situation worse.
mhm,
And it would just, I don't know, that moment of clarity of like being like, oh, I would just make it worse. And what's the point of making something already difficult worse,
mhm,
And that moment of clarity always keeps me grounded because I'm still going through this situation. It just feels like one step forward, two steps back. And I
mhm,
could sit there and be depressed and lay in bed and then eventually turn to using. But instead, I honestly have that moment of clarity and I just do the things I'm supposed to do. Like I'm in full time college for accounting, so I do my
mhm,
homework, or
mhm,
I will do editing for my videos or my show, or I will do my interviews instead of like, you know what I mean, canceling them all and going and
mhm,
being depressed and drinking and then realizing, oh wow, I
mhm.
just screwed up things that I worked really hard for.
Sure. Right. And my recovery is about being reasonably comfortable. And I will not be comfortable using. I lose all the comfort. So if all recovery offers me is some comfort, a place to sleep at night, and food in my stomach, that's enough, because there's nothing worse than not having a place to sleep and not having anything to eat, and being hungry that way. So recovery offers me this comfort that I want to hold on to, and
I
it
agree.
offers me some reliability.
I
You
agree because
know,
I'm in a
yeah.
situation where that is kind of we're staying with family due to issues with losing our house. But I won't get into why we lost our house, but anyways, we lost our house. We are supposed to have moved last Friday into a rental house.
Hmm.
That the pipe burst at the rental house and we weren't able to move in.
Hmm.
And so for me, if I was to use, because I have very bad anxiety, it would set me back into that loop. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That loop
Yeah.
of using and being anxious, then using
Hmm.
and then being anxious, and never getting anything accomplished because I'm just in that
Hmm.
continuous cycle, and it really mentally um gives me issues, right? Like even like you said, like being reasonably comfortable. Honestly, thinking about drinking the way that I did in the past honestly makes me anxious just thinking about what would
Hmm.
happen. Just
Yeah.
knowing where I came from, the depths of how I've been, I don't want to go there. And I really don't even I don't even like the smell of alcohol. I don't like
Hmm.
anything to do with it. It's just not, I don't want it and I don't really want to be around it.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that comes with years of kind of finding yourself through whatever it is that recovery brings you, whatever journey it brings you, I feel like, because like life sometimes things just come your way, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
even with your story of the internship and stuff like
Hmm.
that, like things sometimes just come your way, and if you
Hmm.
were using that, that would never happen, and
Yeah.
you would never
Hmm.
really find who you are and what, like you have never had any of those experiences, and
No.
those
No.
experiences were meant to be your journey so you
Hmm.
could share that with other people, especially when you're coaching them. And having had those experiences, you have knowledge on things that other people don't, so then
No.
you're able to
Mhm.
offer them that knowledge and experience.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
in itself is a big resource that, I mean, not a lot of people can say they have.
Yeah. And most people do have the answers within them. It's just accessing that answer. Because we have so much stuff piled on top of us that gets in the way of us seeing things clearly. And that's really what my job is when I work with people, is to clear a path for them so they can see what they need to do for themselves because they have the answers. I have lots of ideas about, maybe you could try this or you could try that, but you really know. But
Hmm.
you've got to get to that place. And so my job would be to help you to get to that place so you can make the decisions for yourself and what you need to do. Now, in the beginning, I might need to take a little more proactive role in decision making for you. If you're smoking crack or shooting dope, the decision that I'm going to make for you is I'm going to encourage you to go to rehab or detox. We
Oh
got to
yeah,
get this out of your system before you can take on the world or the other things that you want to do.
because you're not
And
thinking clearly.
usually, if we can get somebody in detox, they become open to longer term treatment, maybe the 30-day model. And if you can get them in there, you can usually get them into something for 90 days because people need more versus less. There
I
is
agree.
no truth to a 28-day. What is a 28-day? Where did that number come from? Why is that the number? That's a drop in the bucket.
Why
You're
don't people who've done that and then when they leave, it's not, they don't have that safety of that program anymore, and they're scared, they miss it, they don't feel like it, like they want to go back because they don't
and
feel
you
like,
need
yeah,
somebody, I hate to say it, but you need somebody telling you what to do in the beginning, because if you use your thinking, it's going to get you in trouble. So if you get a strong continuing care plan with some direction and some people around you that can lead you down the right road, then you're going to be better off. And so I believe in the beginning, this first 18 months isn't even recovery. What that is, in my view, is discovery.
mm-hmm,
So you are just discovering what might not work for you. You practice some things, you become consistent with those things. I'm not going to say you master them, but if you get really good at them and you're doing them regularly, then you're moved into recovery. But in the beginning, you're just kind of figuring things out. So I don't even like when people call themselves, what do they call themselves? Chronic relapsers. What do you mean you're a chronic relapsers? Well, I get 3 months together and I use again. Well, that means you just got 3 months and you used again. You didn't relapse because you didn't really change. In
exactly.
order to relapse, you have to make a physical, mental, spiritual, emotional change, and then you relapse into old behavior. But just because you take 6 weeks off or 6 months off from using, that doesn't mean you relapse. It just means, listen, plenty of women stop using for 9 months of their pregnancy. That doesn't
Well,
mean after they have the baby and they use again, that's a relapse. It just means I got pregnant for 9 months and stopped using.
well, I actually have lived that with like a family member. She obviously she stopped using while she was pregnant, but now she's using cocaine, meth,
Mhm,
benzos, and morphine. So
mhm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're exactly right. It's not that she relapsed; it was that she
Mhm.
just abstained while she was pregnant.
Yeah. People go to jail, same thing. They go to jail or go to prison. They stop using while they're there. As soon as they get out, they use again. They
Well,
can't say, "Well, I was in recovery in prison." Well, no, you just stopped using because you probably couldn't get anything.
one
You
of my
know.
first people I ever interviewed, he had just gotten out of prison and he was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm sober now and I'm it's like, so like, oh yeah, I'm sober and I'm doing so like working so hard on it and I worked so hard on it in prison." And then 2 months later he was in rehab. So
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
he he didn't change his life at all.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because he just
Mhm.
got out of prison, and now this whole world's back open to him. You
Mhm.
know, so he really hadn't known how to live outside of prison without
Mhm.
like because he could get it now, and he
Mhm.
really didn't change like he didn't really change the way he was living or anything like that, or think of things that he could do to,
Mhm.
enrich his life, or what would make him stay away from that kind of stuff. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he
Mhm.
relapsed. Now he's out of rehab and 100% different person. And that's because he went and did, I'd say, 6 months of rehab, so it was somewhat long term, and
Mhm.
you can just see it in his face, and
Mhm.
in his posts on Facebook and stuff, that he
Mhm.
actually now is living differently. So it's
Yeah.
like you didn't have it when I first talked to you, now you do. So it's really nice
Mhm.
to see. But I think, like, I agree with you that people, it's not necessarily a relapse because you haven't really done anything to make
Mhm.
your life different to make it a
Yeah.
relapse. Like
Mhm.
me,
Yeah.
it, like, even with going through this situation that I'm in, um, if I used, I wouldn't even call that a relapse, because I would call it just how I used to cope before when I'd go through
Mhm.
difficult things.
Yeah.
It's just going
Mhm.
back to old patterns.
Yeah. I'm just thinking on this podcast, I'm saying the things that I'm saying, and I want your audience to know, listen, you don't have to listen to anything I say.
I agree.
What
Me
I
too.
say may not work for you. You're responsible for your life and your recovery, and you do what you need to do for you. Because that's what I did. I did what I needed to do for me. I painfully, though, did some of the things that people thought I should have done, and some of them worked and some of them didn't. I can't tell you exactly what really works for me either, but I know if am conscious about staying away from the first one, I'm going to be okay. Um, Part of my recovery is actually I live more of an anonymous life. So there's no sign on my back saying I'm in recovery, and every people don't know I'm in recovery. I go to social event. Everybody doesn't know that. There was a time that I would wear that label, but
Mm-hmm.
now I'm just a guy who's on planet Earth that's living his life. Yeah, I know I'm an addict. I don't know that anybody else needs to know. Just like if I was diabetic or had heart disease or had some kind of mental illness, I don't have to share that with everyone. Everyone doesn't need to know. And I'm not obligated to help anyone with anything. It's a choice that I make. One of the choices that I made, I was in Ethiopia, and I was going through a village in the hottest place on earth, the hottest place on
I don't
earth.
do well with heat.
And, so it's like 120 degrees every day. So the village leader just took me through his village and was just showing me around his village. And I looked at this tent that was dilapidated. I said, "What happened here?" "Oh, we had a dust storm. That was our school." And so the dust storm came in and blew the school over. I said, "Oh boy, that's not good. How about when I come back, I'll bring you some books and things?" He said, "Sure." This was in June. And in September of that same year, I said, "I want to go back to Ethiopia." There was something about that place that I liked. That was in June of 2023. But I said, I told this guy I'm going to bring him some books. What am I going to do? I don't have any books to bring. I said, let me do a fundraiser. So let me try to raise $1,800, and I'll bring some books and pens and pencils. Within 3 or 4 days, I raised $3,000. And within about 8, 9 weeks, I raised $30,000.
Wow.
So, again, I don't think about things before I do them. I just do them.
I'm the same.
I contacted the IRS, filled out the paperwork for a 501c, and started a not for profit. Most people that start not for profits have these discussions with people, how we're going to do it, this, that, and the other. I said, listen, I got $30,000. I got to do something with it, and I can't just carry it around with me. So I started a not for profit, and now I provide educational materials. I started with 3 schools, but now I'm concentrating on 1 school in Ethiopia. So we've cemented the floors of the school, cemented the walls, secured the windows. I got desks for 137 students, pens, pencils, computers, solar calculators, book bags for all of these students. And then what I found out was the kids weren't coming to school regularly
Well, they have
because there
to
was no,
walk pretty far sometimes to get
well,
there.
they have, and there's no real incentive. So I
Yeah.
said, well, why don't we create a lunch program? So in
Oh,
thinking about a lunch program, I said, if I create a lunch program, that means I got to keep buying food for them. I said, I can't do that. So then I came up with a great idea. How about a chicken farm? So I started out with 68 chickens or 60 chickens. And so each kid got an egg a day for lunch. So that incentivized them to come to school. I got 200 more chickens. So now the kids get 2 eggs a day. They get a full lunch with a meal like a bread and a tea. So kids are coming to school, they're learning, they're growing, they're getting stronger. And I have the good people of the United States who donate to my not for profit, which is called AfricanHopefulHorizons.org.
can
So if
people in
anybody,
Canada donate there too if they want to?
people in Canada can do it, you just go to AfricanHopefulHorizons.org and you click on the donation and you can make a donation. I'm going back there in January. That'll be the 5th time I've been there. Um, and again, that's part of what my recovery is helping people. I don't necessarily have to help people with drug problems.
I just get my
I stumbled upon this village and this school and this particular need. So there's a need for something. I responded to the need. It didn't matter who it was, but the school is dilapidated. Who's going to build up the school? Why not me? So I helped them build up the school. Um, and part this is what my life has become. I know my mission in life is to help others.
yeah.
And it's not so small that I can only help one little group of
Or
people.
yeah, it's not just recovery or
Right.
addictions.
But
It's
the first I have to help is myself.
mm-hmm.
I got to clear my mind. So I'll go to my meeting every week. I talk to people every week. I journal. I meditate. I do yoga. I do cardio and I do weight training, and I do those all the time. One of the things that I live in Delray Beach, Florida, and there's not that much cultural diversity here. So I started a Black men's journal group. So it's me and 6 other guys that are in recovery, and we meet every other week, and we have a journal that we, write in the journal and then share our journal, our journal thoughts. And we have a group, and we're giving to each other in ways that we really can't do in a 12-step meeting because we're really focused on um, self-esteem, what it is to be Black, what roadblocks, what's going well for us, what could be improved, where are our strengths, where are the areas that we need to grow in. And we have some fellowship around people who look like us,
I
you
get it.
know, and other groups like the dominant group always has a group of people who looks like them. So they don't have to create a special group for them. So we created this group because it was a need that we have, and we'll continue on with the group as long as we have the need.
Exactly.
So those are some of the other things that I do in recovery. I also started a fasting group. So I have this group of people who are interested in fasting, and we this is an online group, so we use WhatsApp, and we do the group is a 100-hour fast. Everyone's goal is to be able to do a 100-hour fast, whether they start with 24 hours or intermittent fasting first, but the main goal is to get to 100 hours. So I
I,
do
I've never
that.
done 100 hours. I do the
Yeah,
intermittent, so
yeah. 100 hours is 4 days and 4 hours. So the last time I did it was 4 days, 4 hours, and 45 minutes. And then a week later, I did a 48-hour fast. This was about 8, 9 weeks ago. And in September, I'm going to probably do another, maybe a 72-hour fast. But I think fasting is going to be a part of my life. I just started yoga. I do a yin yoga, and I've done 35 yoga sessions in 35 days.
like
And
the
so I
90
made a
meetings in 90 days, it's
yeah,
90
I
yoga.
made I made a 6 month commitment to this. So I'm on the hook for 6 months, and then I'm going to probably move into maybe hot yoga after that. But these are all things that I need to do to enhance my life. I want to live a long, healthy life.
I
And
think you live
it's
quite a full life too. Like that's
oh,
another,
and full, right? Absolutely full. Yeah. hmm Yeah.
and I think that
So yeah.
that's the main part of recovery that we get is that we
hmm
get that opportunity, whatever it is, to be able to live that full life and enjoy things
hmm
that we would have never enjoyed before,
Yeah.
or even
And
thought.
and mhm. The
And
other thing that I've done that I didn't bring, I wrote a book.
oh, what's
And
the name of the book?
I wrote a book and it comes out September 4th. I mean, September 2nd. It's The Recovery Roadmap, a guide to freedom and adventure. So it comes out on September 2nd. So it would be great if all of your listeners on September 2nd went to Amazon and purchased the book and then wrote a little review on it, what you thought about it, good, bad, or indifferent. But a book is something that I've wanted to do and people have encouraged me to do. And again, it was one of those things, I'm not going to think too much about this. Let me just get writing. And I
That's
started writing the book. And I literally started at the beginning of the year or the end of last year. And then I just completed it last month.
Well, I've always
And
myself been the same and wanted to write a book, and I'm in the
Mhm,
process of it as well. And like similar to you, I just do things. I don't really think about it first, like even
mhm,
like starting the podcast or starting. Well, I was offered the television show, but I just do things like, or I
mhm,
started like a program for the homeless where they are able to find the resources
mhm,
in a pamphlet. I hand them out all over the city or whatever so they can find it without having to have a phone,
mhm.
right? So I like it. I just love that I can relate to somebody that like in that way where I just do things like the
Well,
same
you
way.
and like my fantasy even about doing these podcasts is that this is what people have told me. I mean, I can't hear it myself, but people tell me I have a great voice. And maybe one of your listeners or somebody's going to hear my voice and maybe be able to do something with it
Well,
that I haven't been able to do.
Well,
So
actually,
mhm,
I live in a city that films a lot of movies and television shows. Right now, they do The Handmaid's Tale, Mayors of
mhm,
Kingstown, and
mhm,
Murdoch Mysteries, and they
mhm,
do movies all the time. So
mhm.
if I
Well,
like,
listen, I don't know if I'm an actor, but maybe I can do voiceovers or something like that, or maybe I could have my own talk show. You
I
know?
think you'd be great having your own
hmm
talk show. You are
Yeah.
very, very good at public speaking. I like am very like not surprised or anything, but like you don't stutter when you speak or like say all the time. You're right on point with what you're saying and you say it clearly. You deliver it clearly and you deliver it with purpose and passion. And so
hmm
I think talk show would be
Listen, and I'm 60 and I'm 66 years old, and part of me says, I'm like, Michael, you're at the end. What are you going to start something new for? But at 66, really is an opportunity for me to go to the next level because even in my career as an addiction counselor, an addiction coach, I don't want to kind of drift off into nothing
Mm-hmm.
and just be gone. I want to go out in a bang. So I want to go out on a high versus a low. And I'm in transition now from being what you might consider a younger man to an older man. So I'm a sage, I'm a mentor, I'm a guide for people. There's a part of me that has to accept the fact that Michael, you are an older man. You're not young
At the
anymore, and
same
you have so much to offer.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. But at the same time, because of that, your book will be, I guarantee, full of much more wisdom and experienced knowledge that people will actually retain and understand, opposed to
Mhm,
somebody who is younger and hasn't had that experience as even working in recovery, going on adventures and doing different experiences in their life and starting charity, like everything that you've
mhm,
done compiles
mhm,
into wisdom, and it compiles into something that somebody's going to retain that information and find
mhm.
interesting,
Yeah. Yeah. One of the chapters in my book talks about enough is enough. And when do we have enough? Why are we always looking for more? I've worked with people who have gone from nothing, and I've worked with people who have gone from having everything to having even more.
Mhm.
People that have gone from nothing to are millionaires and are still looking for more. Why isn't enough enough? So even in my idea, when I talked to you about the ayahuasca, I was trying to enhance my spirituality. Like, why isn't my spirituality enough? Why do I need to look for something else to enhance it? Why can't I be satisfied with what I have? You know, Ideally, with the people that I've met and the things that I've done, I should be, I don't know, Tony Robbins or Dr. Phil with all
Mhm.
of my experience, but I'm not. And I've developed a level of contentment with that. I used to wonder, how come I'm not famous? I should be famous. I'm so good at what I do. You know what? This is it.
You don't
And
know
this
that
is,
though. One day somebody could call you and be like a Dr. Phil kind of thing and offer you that very same thing, just like
they
you've been
could,
offered so many other things
but
randomly throughout your
I got
life.
to tell you, they could. But right now, I'm as famous and as popular as I need to be. There is no more that I actually need. I actually have enough, even though, like I have the daydream or the want for more, but really this is enough. I have enough clothes. I have enough food in the refrigerator. I have enough air conditioning. you know, I have enough honey because I got these 5 beehives in my backyard. I plant stuff all the time. I have enough plants. I have enough socks. I have enough underwear, t-shirts, suits.
I love it.
I mean, what more can a man ask for? And you know what? When I think about more, it usually is about fear of running out or it won't be enough. And I have to really hold on to this idea, Michael, it is enough. You have enough. There's nothing to be afraid
I'm
of.
the same
You are
way.
going to be provided for. You have been provided for.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said with my situation, I have to do that too because, like I said, I don't have a place that's to call my own per se. I'm with
Mhm,
family, so I
mhm,
have to tell myself all the time. Like you said, I have enough clothes, I have food, I have enough money to survive. I
mhm,
might not quite have the housing figured out, but I I have enough. And
mhm,
I also take on too much a lot and then become overwhelmed because I have ideas coming out like ooh, right? And then I
mhm,
go too much and then it gets to a point of burnout and then I left as a step I can't stop because I've made these commitments. So I just have to
mhm.
force myself to get through it and then afterwards just drop. But
Yeah.
why isn't it enough? Why do I like same thing? Why do I have to continuously take on more and more and more and more and more?
Yeah, I was looking through the closet this morning, and I'm looking at all these light bulbs. I got all of these light bulbs that apparently none of my lights burn out, so I never have to use my surplus of light bulbs. But I got all of this surplus of stuff, and I'm really thinking now is I really want to lighten my load, and I want to physically get rid of a lot of the things that I have. Be more, I don't know that I want to be a minimalist, but I don't need so much. I feel cluttered, you know, with all of this stuff. Yeah.
I I feel the same way, and that it's almost like life put this whole thing with the house into action because our house we had outgrown it, and it was like almost starting to get maze like because of all
Mhm,
of the stuff my children have. And
mhm,
like I'm now that they've taken it out of the house, put it in bins, I have it sorted and I'm able to donate it, get rid of
mhm,
the stuff we don't need. But I totally understand that fact of where you're like, why do I have so much stuff that I don't need? And
mhm,
my mother also has an issue with hoarding. So
mhm,
for me, I try to live as minimalistic as possible, even with like we just really outgrew the house. It was small.
mhm,
And she all she cares about is stuff. So even when with
mhm,
now like moving, she continuously asks me, "Oh, do you still have this and that and this like and the boxes, are they okay? And did you
mhm,
check through everything? All this stuff." And it's only about things. It's not like,
mhm,
are you okay? Are the kids okay? Like
mhm.
it's the stuff okay? And that's all she
Yeah.
thinks about. And
Mhm,
it's something that has been very prevalent in my life. Like even when I was little, she would store things in the bathtub. Like so
mhm.
I've
Wow.
learned I've learned through live like then when she and my dad separated, I stayed with my dad who my mom took everything, so we had nothing, right? And
Mhm,
so living without a car and very little money and very little material things,
mhm,
I learned very young that you don't need it, and holding on to it is just going to cause, I don't know, eventually you're just going to be cluttered, and if your house is cluttered, your mind is going
mhm.
to be cluttered and you're
Absolutely. Mhm,
clearly. And I was getting to that point with the house, and I feel like that's kind of why life put this whole
mhm.
ball into motion, rolling, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think you have to look at the positives in the negative times, I suppose. And
Mhm,
that's one of them for me, I would say. And
mhm.
yeah. Do you actually have a website or anything actually while I'm thinking about it?
Yeah, CoachMichaelHerbert.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Coach Michael Herbert. I'm on Twitch, Coach Michael Herbert. You can find me on LinkedIn, Michael Herbert. I think also I have another Instagram, which is called Recovery Guide. It's on Instagram, and then Michael Herbert on Facebook. So you can find me on all of these things. Instagram, Coach Michael Herbert, Michael Herbert on LinkedIn, Michael Herbert, CoachMichaelHerbert.com is my landing page or website, and recoveryguide.net. And then also AfricanHopefulHorizons.org is my not for profit.
Perfect. And one more time, the name of the novel. What?
The name of the book is The Recovery Roadmap, a guide to freedom and adventure.
And it'll be available on Amazon, right?
It'll be available on
Per-
Amazon September the 2nd. Yeah.
Perfect. Before I let you go, do you have any last little pieces of advice for anybody watching this?
Well, as I said earlier, abstinence will be the key to recovery. So you got to get abstinent, and you are responsible for your life and your recovery, not your mother, not your therapist, not your sponsor, not your friends. You are responsible. So make responsible choices around people, places, and things. You know, Sometimes people get into these situations that are tough, but I don't know. There always is for every problem there's a solution. And so every circumstance that I've heard someone get in that gets them in trouble, I've also heard someone get out of that same thing. But you, the listener, is responsible as I am responsible for my life and my recovery. And I have to take responsibility for the choices that I make, good and bad. And and for me, it's an ongoing process. I'm clean for 36 years, but listen, I'm no saint. I don't have it down. I don't have it perfect. I still have a long way to go. Um, but I've come a long way. So that helps. But in order to come a long way, you got to take a step at a time. And you build
Yeah.
up the days and you build up consistency, and eventually you'll get there.
And also not letting fear stand in your way of doing things that like you have done. Because sometimes of travel or fear of trying something new stops people, and it definitely hasn't stopped you. So I would say, but in my opinion, not having fear of trying something new in your life also has definitely been a guide for you.
Yeah, talk about fear. I fed, and I've done this twice now, wild hyenas.
Oh wow, hyenas are vicious from what I hear too. So
They
that
are they are big, strong, and vicious, but I fed them anyway. So
why
I'm not the kind of guy that's going to jump out of an airplane with a parachute, but I'll feed hyenas.
not? I'd rather do
Yeah.
that too. Well,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
thank you so much for
Well,
sharing
thanks for having
everything.
me. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for coming on and
This is
sharing
great.
everything.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
appreciate it so much. You have a
Mhm.
good rest of your day. And
Okay.
yeah, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thanks. All
Bye.
right. Bye.